So let's talk about money today. For a long time, I was what you would consider an under earner, right? Somebody who has a lot of potential, who has intelligence. I went to one of the top 10 universities in the US. I was the captain of my ballroom dancing team and got a really good job, at 22. And then I became this person that was an under earner. I just never really focused on money. I didn't really focus on growing my bank account. After I had left my corporate job, it was like there was no money coming in consistently, right? I was teaching dance, I was doing this and doing that. I became a tutor. I did a whole bunch of things to try to find my calling, and I wanted to make money. And I had a lot of student loans, first of all from Northwestern and then from graduate school. So things were just piling up. And then I started to add more credit card debt, more credit card debt, more credit card debt. A lot of my graduate school tuition went to the credit cards. And some of those things, some things I just bought, because I thought I needed them, or I traveled because I wanted to, but I wasn't taking into consider how much money I was earning, and I didn't really care. I just lived paycheck to paycheck. As long as I made my rent, which I did. Okay, I've never been late with any sort of bills, but I was just making ends meet. I was responsible in the sense that I just wanted to make sure I pay my bills on time. That I always did, and but I never made enough. It was like, I remember living in LA. My rent was maybe like $1,000 a month, and I had a roommate, so we split. It was a $2,000 apartment. LA is expensive. Okay, so she was sort of an under earner. I was an under earner. So I had nobody in my life that taught me how to make more money. I just didn't really know. I had friends that were very wealthy, but I never thought to ask them, hey, how do you get your financial life together? So, but I was following my mother and father's story. Um, I grew up with a single mom. She never made enough money. She's a very talented woman. She's beautiful. My mom, honestly, I remember in her 40s, she was so beautiful. Wherever we went, like people would be looking at her, admiring her beauty, but she didn't really made anything of herself. She could have been a model or an actress, something like this, but she just got like a regular accounting job, not something that she was very passionate about, even though she loves singing, theater, all these things. So I just watched her and I thought, okay, that's my mom. I didn't really like how she was, but I subconsciously just followed the same pattern, right? And then on my dad's side, we had like a very traumatic family story. My grandfather was considered a capitalist by the communists in China. And I think when my father was about 10 years old, they caught my grandfather and sent him to jail, because at the time, the family, our neighbor was Chiang Kai-shek, okay, the leader, the founder of Taiwan. Essentially, he was our neighbor, but he was like the opposition to communists, right? So when the communists took over, they sent my grandfather to jail for 30 years. So there's a lot of shame with that. Basically, the story in the family is if you have a lot of money, you're branded a capitalist pig, and you are publicly shamed, and you're outcast. You become an outcast. So the whole family, when they were forced out of Shanghai and went to the countryside with no food, nothing, and two of my, so an uncle and aunt of mine had to go live with another relative, because my grandmother has 6 children and she couldn't afford to raise them by herself. So there was just a lot of trauma. She sort of had to sort of sell herself for sex, use sex to make money and things like that. So very traumatic story. And I think I, again, subconsciously bought into the story that if you stand out, if you shine in this world, if you make money, you are going to be an outcast. You're going to be, persecuted. That's the word, persecuted. And So I always felt there was always sort of this underlying fear. I didn't understand why I was acting the way I was acting, to be very honest, until until I started connecting with the spiritual guides, and they explained to me. They said, well, you had this family history, so in your mind, you can't really stand out, because if you stand out, someone is going to come and get you. You know, somebody's going to come and get you. So my grandfather, having been in the prison for 30 years, pretty much a year after he came out, he died. Okay, because he just couldn't adjust back to regular society. So I've never met him. Actually, I've never met this grandfather. He died when I was very young, and he was a scholarly person. He spoke French, he spoke English, was very, very well educated for his time, especially in China. I mean, back in the days, nobody knows any foreign languages, but he went to private school because the family had money at the time. They had 3,000 employees, owned textiles, they manufactured textiles, and they were landowners. And it's like they were punished for doing what they were really good at, right? They were punished for making a lot of money. It was just like an ideology difference, right, between the communism and capitalism. So, and then my mom took me and my brother to the United States after she got a divorce. I was about 12 years old at the time, starting life, and she, with very little money, she actually sent me to a Catholic private school, and all my friends were well-to-do, and again, I went to high school later, a public high school, but it was in a very good neighborhood. Again, I was surrounded by all these children who came from well-to-do families, their father and mother are doctors or lawyers or things like that. So I just always felt like, oh, I'm sort of the outcast. I didn't really feel like I fit in 100%. I was smart, I made good grades, and the way I proved myself was through hard work, was through following the system, right, that's prescribed by the society. You go to school, you make straight A's, then you go to good college, you make straight A's, you get a job. And when I got fired from the job, it was kind of like, oh my God, now what? There was no more system for me to follow. So since there was no more system for me to follow, I just followed whatever the subconscious underlying pattern was, right, from my family. And then when I started to channel the spiritual guides, that was like one of the big things that they really kind of worked with me on, was, you gotta start to shift the way you relate to money, and it's not this scary thing. And I also met my boyfriend, who's my life partner. He's really like a big teacher for me in this area. He said, listen, don't spend as much and start saving more. Like really common sense things, okay? Like it's common sense that everybody knows, but it doesn't mean that everybody's following, right? Like you always know what to do. It's like if you want to lose 50 pounds, you exercise more, you eat less. I mean, that's it. I mean, what else is there? But our subconscious, our limiting beliefs are what's holding us back very often, right? It's like the pattern underneath your conscious mind that's running you day in, day out, day in, day out. So I started to, listening to my boyfriend, I started to save a bit more. It was very hard. He put me on a budget. My first time in my 30s having a budget. And the guys really encouraged me, right? They said, just follow it, try it out, listen to what he says. Don't resist so much. And they really cleared a lot of that misbeliefs about money for me. And I was very fortunate. By then I started living in Thailand. The expenses were low here, and I was making okay money at the beginning, just survival. But I was spending much less. So then like month after month, I had savings, and it was kind of like a miracle for me. I know it's like total common sense, but it was a miracle for me. I was like, oh, I made basically the same amount, but I spent so much less. So then all of a sudden, my bank account went up. Uh, and then I realized, okay, so if my bank account would go up if I spend less, then if I make more, my bank account is going to go up more, right? So I started to attract more clients. I put my intention there, and then I reached my first $10,000 month. It was a really big deal for me. I definitely bought myself a very big present, and uh, it was it was new. This way of living, dealing with money was very new to me. But it took time. It wasn't like an overnight thing. Okay, like it took like month after month being on a budget and then saving and then earning more. Everything that you would know, that you would already know. But the difference is, of course, I was very lucky. I always had the spiritual guides teach me. Every time I would fall off track, they would remind me to be on track and just keep me there, like on track, you know? Through compassion, through love, through understanding. They never judged me. I never felt judged, even though I was judging myself. So I'm telling you all this because the guides are teachers that basically have unlimited wisdom, okay? And if you're someone who's struggling with money, believe me, if you follow their lessons and you follow what they teach you, you will actually start to develop a different relationship with money, not through conscious hard work, okay, but it's really, really through developing self-love for yourself, all right? So I encourage you to take a look at the 12-week study course, and I will see you on the inside.